Men, hold your fellow men accountable. It's not enough to say not all men. It's not enough to say I am a good man. Hold your fellow men accountable.
Cassie Ventura, the star witness in the government's case against Sean Diddy Combs, takes the stand and testifies about the freak-offs that are at the center of the case against Combs and the abuse she says she suffered at his hands.
After being in court yesterday for the opening statements and the first couple witness testimonies, I think that Diddy could potentially get off. His legal team is really like that. Now, here's why.
Witness taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years.
With the ongoing Sean Diddy Combs trial, we need to have a conversation as a community. This isn't about gossip. It's not about sensationalism. It's not about delving deep into somebody's personal story. We are going to have a conversation about systems, about harm, and about power. I am not going to go into details of the trial. So if you are a survivor, please know that you don't have to watch this video. I will not be describing any graphic content here, but I know that hearing the case in of itself can be triggering. So please, please take care of yourself. Now, for the rest of us, grab your water, tea, juice, and let's have a necessary trauma-informed conversation. Welcome back to my channel. I am Alice. I am a trauma therapist and a resilient researcher, and I care deeply about how our cultural and systemic forces shape our lives, especially when it comes to violence, power, and survival. Today we are going to talk about human trafficking. Not in the abstract terms, but in context, because the Diddy trial has cracked open a conversation in our communities, on social media, in court, in our homes, and we cannot ignore it. We need to have these sort of conversations. So I want to start by telling you all a little bit about how I came to care about gender-based violence, sexual abuse, any form of violence as a therapist. Part of my training as a counselor is that we have to do an internship. And during my internship, I got the opportunity to intern with an organization called Black Women's Blueprint. And this organization specifically focuses on Black women who have experienced sexual assault in Black communities. And they focus on Black women specifically because oftentimes when Black women face any form of sexual assault, any form of abuse, in Black communities, it's difficult for them to report, or they do not report. And when they report, the police doesn't believe them. So that's where I got my training to be a therapist in that way. But even before that, right? In one of the videos, I talked about going to South Africa after my graduation, working around gender-based violence, working with sex workers. What does it mean for sex workers to be protected in our community? So I've had the opportunity to be in the spaces and to learn, improve my professional development as well. And then I also worked at Rikers Island with a program called Criminalized Survivors Program. And that program specifically focuses on people who have experienced gender-based violence, and as a result of the abuse, their survival of the abuse has been criminalized. So that could mean like a survivor who fights back, right? A survivor who maybe is assault or, kind of self-defense. In that way, their act of surviving has been criminalized. And that program really taught me a lot about the cycle of violence, about domestic violence, about intimate partner violence, about gender-based violence in our society. Who are the forgotten people? How our criminal justice system re-traumatizes survivors over and over again. So when When I bring you these things, I am talking from the perspective of a professional who has worked with survivors. And I also cannot take away my experience as a woman, as a Black woman navigating this world. So let's start with the fact. Human trafficking is the exploitation of people through force, fraud, or coercion, often for sexual and labor purposes. Victims are treated like property, stripped of their autonomy, kept compliant through psychological, emotional, and physical control. Again, underlying psychological, emotional, and physical control. That's how they are kept in compliance to follow through. Most people have no idea how common this is, right? Women and girls make up about 71% of trafficking victims worldwide. 77% of trafficked women and 72% of trafficked girls are exploited sexually. And this could look like sometimes they are forced to do sex work. Traffickers use tactics such as false job offers, isolation, debt bondage, and threats of violence. The median age for adult sex trafficking is 18, right? And for children, the average age of entry is between 12 and 14. These are children, but oftentimes these are how their entryway into human trafficking or sex trafficking, right? These are not rare stories. These are global patterns, right? There is a pattern of grooming, of preparing victims for this, right? If, let's say, a child is 12, they are groomed into this act. They are groomed by somebody they trust, by somebody who has power over them. And this is very, very intentional. And the legal system often fails to hold perpetrators accountable. Only 24% of sex trafficking cases in the US go to trial. Most end in plea deals, not justice. Think about it. About 24% of sex trafficking cases in the US go to trial. So, what we are seeing specifically with Diddy's case, this is a rare case. This is not the norm. This isn't something that happens most of the time. Let's talk about the current Sean Diddy Combs case. Not the tabloid details, but let's delve into something deeper here, right? Cassie was 19 when she met Diddy, a teenager. He was a man with massive wealth, cultural influence, and access to people, including spiritual leaders. This is a teenager who met this man who had experience, like sexual experience, life experience. He had money, he had access to people. People were around him, working for him, who would do whatever he wanted them to do for him, right? Now let's fast forward, right? We all know, we've all heard stories about the relationship, the over a decade relationship, and what happened in the relationship. Now let's fast forward to now. Right now, Cassie has been subpoenaed to testify. She didn't volunteer to testify. She is being forced while heavily pregnant to stand on a global stage, cut herself open emotionally, and explain the violence she survived for the federal case. She is testifying for the federal government. This is a federal case while heavily pregnant, opened up about her life, leaving herself bare and open. Like she has to prove her innocence. She has to prove that she is worth believing, that she is a survivor. She has to prove. And the questions on social media, people are still questioning her. The pain that she has endured, the pain that this 19-year-old baby, I'm 40, she is a baby, endured. She has to cut herself open. There are probably things that she didn't want to tell her parents about, her family members about, her friends about, even her partner about. But now it's all in the open, free for all. Here's the other thing. Diddy has two daughters, twins. They had to sit there and listen. It makes me think about all the black daughters who had to carry the weight of their father's transgression, their father's sins. They have to carry the weight. As women, they have to carry that. And somehow they had to sit in court. Nobody said, no, these girls are too young, teenagers. They are too young for this. They shouldn't be here. But they were there sitting, listening. Do you see where this is going? As a trauma therapist, here is what I know. Survivors are often treated like they are the ones on trial. We saw this with Meg Thee Stallion. Every day we see examples of it where survivors, they are treated as if they are the ones on trial. They are forced to defend their pain, their survival strategies, and their right to speak. They are forced to defend it. When I used to work with the criminalized survivors program, survivors, every day they were forced to prove that they were survivors, to prove that they have endured abuse, to prove just for a little bit of society's compassion, just for a little bit of empathy. Nobody talks about the perpetrator. Nobody does. And people still ask survivors, why didn't you come forward? Why didn't you report? Why didn't you leave? You should have chosen better. Why didn't you know this was what's happening? It's always survivors that people are questioning. Instead of questioning the one who did the harm and asking them, why did you do this? Why didn't you stop? Why did you choose to abuse another person? We never ask them that. We have all the questions directed to survivors. The real question is, why would they? Why would survivors come out when this is what they would face? At every stage, if they come out and tell their stories, somebody is going to ask them, why didn't you leave? Why are you telling your story now? Well, it's 10 years later. It's 20 years later. Why are you now telling us? Why? We punish survivors for telling their truth. Then we punish the people who have done the harm. When power, money, social capital, and legacies come together, it protects abusers, and victims are expected to beg for belief, to prove that they are worth believing. We are long overdue for a trauma-informed system. And when I say a system, I mean our legal system and our media as well. The way the media has been covering this story, we are long overdue for a trauma-informed society, one that prioritizes safety, dignity, and truth, not performance, not sensationalism, not spectacle. A system that thinks of the influence or the impact of putting survivors in this way where they have to prove their innocence. A system that thinks about Diddy's teenage daughters. A system that protects both survivors and Diddy's daughters. A system that protects black girls and black women. A system that believes survivors right from the start. A system that doesn't tell 16-year-olds and 12-year-olds that they are fast, that they are matured, that they can manipulate their way into men. We are long overdue for a system that doesn't harm or re-traumatizing survivors. So in conclusion, human trafficking is not just a crime. It is a public health crisis. It is a cultural wound It affects every part of our society. It is very insidious where it affects every sector of our society, every part of it. In this case, is holding a mirror, reflecting the very systems that we have normalized. Power without accountability, pain without justice. This is not about one man. Diddy is on trial, but this is not about one man. This is about a society that protects the powerful and disbelieves the person who has been harmed. This reflects our society. And as we make this comment, you also have to think about Cassie may not see your comment, but your cousin, your friend, your co-worker, your family member, the person who is the closest to you, they may hear and see your comment. And you are telling them that you are not a safe place for them. You are not the safety that they can come to if and when they are being abused. So if this conversation moved something in you, I want to encourage all of us to learn more, to support survivors and organizations doing this work. If you have a platform, use your voice. Don't just be a passerby. Men, hold your fellow men accountable. It's not enough to say, not all men. It's not enough to say, I am a good man. Hold your fellow men accountable. That is how you show that you are a protector, that you are not one of them. You have to betray the very systems of patriarchy. Betray that system. I have linked all the resources and the citations in the description for you to learn more about human trafficking. Now, above all, to every survivor watching or listening in spirit, you are not alone. I believe you. I don't need even to hear the details of your story. I believe you. However you choose to go forward with your story, with your life, I believe you. You get to decide what feels right for you. You are not alone. Thank you for having this conversation with me. And if you want more social commentary and us talking about culture, power, and healing, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Share this video with a friend. My name is Alice, and I will see you in my next video. Take care of yourself. And if you can, take care of another person too. Bye.